Truthfully, what happens is, as children grow up, we start to educate them progressively from the waist up. And then we focus on their heads and slightly to one side.
I think in the old days, you were better off. Because nowadays, they're all specialists. Everyone's becoming better and better. And less and less. And eventually someone's going to be superb. Like nothing.
Our education system has mined our minds in the way that we've strip mined the earth for a particular commodity. And for the future, it won't serve us. We have to rethink the fundamental principles on which we're educating our children.
We're not here to tell everybody that they're wrong and we're right. We're not saying that we have all the answers, but we'd like to present a different way of looking at it.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to China Jeducation, episode 39. My name is Jean-Loup Francois, and I am a design teacher at GSIS in Suwon, South Korea.
And not just episode 39, Jean-Loup. Welcome to China Jedi. Wonderful to have you on. It's actually, I've been told by our researchers, shows how much I know, that today, on episode 39 of China Jeducation, is our overall 100th China Jedi episode. Yay! Huh.
Hashtag landmark. We got this.
I'm kind of scrambling to think maybe that's pretty important, so we should get you a present sent over. We'll have to work out what it is. Maybe it's China Jedi cap, or how about a China Jedi pair of earmuffs so you don't have to listen to the podcast, something like that. But really nice to have you on, and I do believe our first teacher from Korea, from South Korea. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about what's going over there now at the moment, and of course what you're up to there teaching wise. So I think we'll start off first, Jean-Loup, with what's the kind of story, what brought you to South Korea? How did that happen?
So it wasn't planned, not by me for sure, until a fellow Mauritian teacher came to work in Korea, and then they figured out that we do have a pretty solid bank of design teachers in Mauritius, because it is a strong program home. But in other international schools, in many countries, design in secondary school is still to be developed. That comes from the British background in Mauritius. That's why design is such a big thing. And I was contacted by the school saying that, hey, we got your contact. We're looking for a teacher. Would you mind applying? I applied for the job. Then they closed the position. I was like, no problem. I'm happy in Mauritius. They contacted me again 6 months after that. I gave it a try thinking that it won't happen. And 2 Skype interviews later, I got the job. And again, everybody keeps asking me until now, how come you landed in South Korea? How did that happen? It just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. I'm just trying to think how I landed in China. But anyway, there's not enough time for that. Jean-Loup, this is we'll have to tune into another episode. So brilliant. Okay, so how long have you been in South Korea?
So this year is year number 6, so since 2014.
Yeah, and it goes quickly, doesn't it? It really does.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, true.
Yeah. And so apart from that, obviously being China Jedi, I'd like to ask, you have any links to your neighboring country of China? I
do. Actually, my wife, Karen, her middle name is Aki, and she's from Chinese origin. Mauritius basically is a country which is pretty much like the whole wide world in one small island. We've got such a strong Chinese population, Indian population, Muslim population, Europeans from our colonial background, and Africans from a slavery background. So it's all mixed. It's a huge melting pot. And my wife has got known Chinese ancestors who came to Mauritius.
So, okay, wonderful. Mauritius and China link there for your wife. Let's move on to, actually, I was about to say classroom scramble, but the researchers have decided we're going to change our game. Mm-hmm. They haven't given, well, I'm just kind of asking why, and they're looking at me like I don't need to ask that question. So it's now, the game is Guess the Gap. So let's get into that.
Oh, we chat, waiting, me. We chat, waiting, come to my party.
So guess the gap. Unlike Classroom Scramble, it's no scrambles. It's putting something in the place of nothing. Apparently, I'm going to read, this famous quote. It's about teaching, obviously, and education, Jean-Loup. And I'm gonna chop out a section of it, a word or a couple of words, and then you are somehow, I don't know how you do this, are going to have to guess what word or words go into it, and hopefully you'll find the right ones. If not, then I'll be able to tell you the answer at the end. If you get it, you win, and if you don't get it, I guess I win, but who cares? So here we go, guess the gap. Here's the quote then for you today, Jean-Loup. Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them blank is best. There you go. I can hear some typing in a computer.
Yep.
Is that coming from your researchers trying to get you the answer? I hope not. I hope you're not Googling that, Jean-Loup.
I am not just typing it on notes.
Yes, yeah, wonderful.
I won't remember.
Yes.
No, you know what? I will not Google it. I will give it a try, and if I fail, I'm going to fail beautifully.
Well, anyway, as a design teacher, I'm sure you can be rather creative with whatever. I guess there's no real definite answer there. So I think you've alluded to it earlier, Jean-Loup, but you're from Mauritius. You born and grew up in Mauritius, I take it.
Yes, I was born and grew up in Mauritius. And us being such a small island in such in the middle of such a big ocean, traveling is not really I would say common thing. So yeah, I grew up, and my first time leaving the island, I was more than 25 years old. So pretty late.
Wow. And where was the first place you left Mauritius for?
So it was to Rodrigues Island, which is an island, a 2-hour flight from Mauritius, so not very far. But my first real time away was for an MUN conference with my previous school. It was all the way in Rome, in Italy.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's, so that was I mean, you could say, of course, positive spin. Mauritius has everything, all cultures, and I know it has beautiful beaches and stuff as well, that there really is no need to possibly leave.
Yeah, let's put it this way. When people here tell me, oh, we would love to go for honeymoon in Mauritius, and I tell them I had my honeymoon in Mauritius, so I guess I'm lucky.
Yeah, for sure. And when you were growing up there, Jean-Loup, what type of school did you go to? Did you go to just one school all the way through? Can you tell me about that?
All right, so it is different. I mean, even the terms middle school, high school would not be used at all in Mauritius. Elementary school, we'd say primary school.
So it's for British. We use the kind of like we do in England, yeah, British primary, secondary. Okay. Exactly.
Even the structure of the year is in trimesters. So term 1, term 2, term 3, and not in quarters like it is here in my current school.
Right.
So primary school, I've been in Catholic schools all the way through primary and secondary school. So the thing in Mauritius, though, is that there's huge competition both at primary and secondary level to access to what you would describe as a good secondary school in the old system, which is changing. You need to have a good result at the end of your primary education. There's a national exam. And as a result of that, you get qualified for certain schools. So it also means that sometimes you have to travel long distances to go to your school. For example, my secondary school was probably 30 kilometers away from where I lived, which is normal for many kids in the island. If you want to go to a good school, it doesn't matter where you live. If you get access to it, go ahead.
30 kilometers. So how did you get that? I mean, was there a school bus or... Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was a school bus, but the school bus not always where I live. So I lived in the suburb of the capital. So I had to take a small bus, probably 10, 15 minutes route. And then I wait at a bus station where I take the school bus for another maybe 45, 50 minutes.
Wow, dear. And I'm sure it may be in those days, Jean-Loup, not that I'm alluding to the fact that you're maybe quite old, but no podcasts weren't around in those days. So what did you do on the bus? Did you just keep studying, reading books, things like that? 'Cause of course you couldn't listen to podcasts.
Yeah, and one thing I've always been bad at is reading on the bus or in the car. So moving, I cannot.
Yes.
I've never been able to read. I mean, but with friends, being the young kid at the first years of secondary, probably I was just the good kid seated in front and falling asleep on the bus, waiting to get there. Then growing up, I became a little bit more outgoing with friends, and I mean, we would chat, all sorts of things, listen to music. It was the days of Walkman. I had my first Walkman. I was in my third year of secondary, so yep.
The good old little cassette player, absolutely, yeah,
Exactly.
brilliant. I remember that, and on top of that, it's funny you should say that. Motion sickness, I guess, what you were saying, you know, when you read it. I used to be fine with that, and I've realised now, whenever I get in a Chinese taxi and maybe check my phone, my WeChat messages, I just start feeling really sick. So I think maybe as you get older, but of course you've had it all your life. But something's happened. I don't know what it is. They're either really bad drivers, they've got worse here, or I'm just getting old and my chemical mechanisms aren't working. That's probably the right answer. Anyway, I'm digressing somewhat. Now, after secondary school, what did you do in terms of university? Still staying in Mauritius, of course. What did you study?
Yep. So I studied. The first idea of me was to go to Australia to study. It didn't work out. So then I did get access to an Australian university through an institution in Mauritius. I studied advertising, graphic design and advertising, to work in design as a graphic designer. So I did a degree from Australia. I did another professional qualification from South Africa to be fully qualified to be a graphic designer in advertising. I did that home. So I studied for near to 4 years. And then I was already working, though. That's the good thing being home, having contacts from my first year of university. I got a job in an advertising agency. So I was already working part-time, which was good for my CV, obviously, and even for my learning, because I was learning at university, but applying things right away and learning with professionals around me. So that was pretty neat.
And through the process of schooling, whether it be primary, secondary, university, was there any outstanding, standout kind of teacher that, you know, took you under their arm or, inspired you in some way?
Yeah, I think a few. I have probably at least one name from primary, secondary, and university. But I think the one who stands out is Pascal Nadal, who was my GP teacher, general paper teacher in secondary. GP is probably like theory of knowledge kind of thing. It goes with English in the A-levels. But thinking back, why he inspired me, it's not necessarily for what he was doing in the classroom, but who he is in and out of the classroom.
Right.
So he used to live in the same area I was living back then. Okay. And with some friends, we had a group, a social, I would say, oriented group. So we'd do things for the locality. And in many of our activities, he would help us and bring his knowledge, etc., etc. And those little interactions with him, on the top of him being my teacher and being super knowledgeable, I think gave me the image of the teacher I wish I could be in certain ways. And don't get me wrong, I'm totally different to him in terms of our teaching styles. Completely different. But still, I think the guy out of the classroom is the one who inspired me the most and still inspires me now.
Are you still keep in touch?
Oh, yeah. Last time I went home, I was happy to visit him. He's now not in the classroom anymore, but still in education. And we had a long conversation about where I am now and things we've done together. So, yeah, pleasure to still be in touch with him.
It seems to be always, you know, 'cause I spoke to lots of teachers, that kind of personable characteristic, you know, the relationship, and it goes outside of the classroom and you keep in touch with these brilliant people. Yeah, I just think that's the real glue. You know, they're interested not just in your grade or you're doing well in the class, but actually just interested in you as a human being, right?
True, yeah.
Yeah.
It does make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been told, Jean-Loup, that you are a little bit of a soccer, or as you say, football fan. And, well, you are speaking to someone on your side here, but let's see if we are supporting the same side. I'm a Liverpool fan.
Woohoo! Spot on. I'm born red.
There you go. So you, like me, are in an absolute heaven at the moment. I mean, I watch all the games, and we've been through some real bad times, and it just all I will say. Let's leave it like this because it's not a football podcast, but let's enjoy it while it lasts, Jean-Loup. In terms of doing advertising. Going back to that, how did you then steer into teaching? I mean, when you were doing those degree advertising stuff, you weren't thinking about teaching advertising or anything like that, were you? How did the teaching thing come into play?
So I think the teaching thing came pretty early. I don't know if you've known that, but a lot of times in classrooms, teachers would ask, hey, anyone who'd like to be a teacher one day? If one day you'd be a teacher, blah, 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 blah. And every time that would happen in secondary school, I would be one of the rare students saying, oh, maybe. I'm not saying no to that. That's a maybe. Okay. So it was always something I thought of as an option. Not something I was dying to do, but I never thought, like, I know some of my friends who would clearly say, I'm never going to teach. It's never going to happen. I always thought maybe it will happen. So then advertising came. So I'm also passionate about design. So I like that. And I wanted to do design and to work in advertising, fair enough. Not thinking of teaching advertising, but just to be a designer. But the idea was still here. And when I got into my full-time job in advertising, finishing university, I had really a great guy as my creative and managing director, going by the name of Nanda Pavade. And Nanda knew that I was thinking of maybe teaching one day. What he did was, okay, what we'll do, every time we'll get interns and kids coming to spend a few days, weeks in the agency, you will take care of them. And he presented that to me as a kind of, that's your first experience of teaching. You get to chaperone them, you get to work with them, and to show them how things work, you're the teacher on site. And that, again, was probably the first thing he did, which had a big impact on my career change. Second thing, then I saw the job posting for supply teacher. So the government, public schools, they were looking for a supply teacher teaching design technology in secondary school. Then I went to see him. I'm like, Nanda, here it is, but I don't know if I should. It's only supply teacher. It's not a full-time job. I don't know if I'm ready for it. And then he was like, go for it. Try it. If it doesn't work, your place here will be kept for you. For how long you need to go try, you try. And that's the kind of encouragement you needed. I needed that, but I didn't expect that to happen. He was like, you go give it a try. And if you fail, you come back. And we'll welcome you here. So I went, and again, probably if he did not encourage me at that very time, maybe I wouldn't have given it a try. I would have missed that chance. So this is the very moment. Okay,
let's talk about your current teaching position then, Jean-Loup, in Korea. Work, the con is on. The time has come for procrastination. So what's your current school? Just give us a quick breakdown. It's an international school, is it?
Yes, it is. So Gyeonggi Suwon International School, Christian school found in Suwon, South Korea. Suwon is right next to Seoul. So it is close enough to the capital, but away enough to be away from the capital. So it's great location. Growing school at the moment, right? We are getting new kids coming in. So right now we are a little bit over 400 kids, K-12. Not a huge schools, but we still have some space to grow. Full IB school, PYP, MYP,
right.
DP. What else? So it's been 6 years. I'm mostly a design teacher, but I've taught ITGS as well, which is a kind of computer studies, but a humanities aspect of computer studies. I have an art background as well with graphic design, but I did not teach art here since I'm here. So I'm teaching only design, MYP design for middle school, and design technology for high school.
And you're with you're not alone, of course. You're with your family, yeah?
Yep, I'm with my family. My wife, Karen, is an elementary teacher teaching early years. My daughter, June, is in first grade. She's 7 years old. And my son, Kezia, is in the daycare, in the toddler's room. He's 3 years old.
So are you all at the same school then?
Yep, that's probably one of the best thing of me being here. We're all under the same roof. I had lunch with my 3-year-old son today. That's very, very good.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's the real kind of great thing about being a teaching family, right? So if you can get a good package like that, so that's really brilliant. I mean, in terms of the percentage, you know, the people that actually attend there, student-wise, what percentage are actually local Korean, Jean-Loup, to, you know, compared to expats like you and myself?
So it's a huge majority of what they would call, statistics would call them Korean Americans, because by laws, we can only take local students if they have a foreign passport as well, or if they have lived abroad for at least 3 years. And Korea, with all their connections with America, there's a lot of Korean Americans, which basically mean either they were born in America from Korean parents and then they came back to Korea, or they were born in Korea and at some point went to America for a few years and then came back to Korea. And you can see in those kids that they are culturally Korean, but still with a little, I'd say, influence of America in the way they do things, in their language. It's interesting to see. It's interesting. But at the end of the day, when you walk in the hallways and you look around you, the population of the school looks Korean more than anything else.
Are you looking to further your career in education? Teach Now offers a convenient online teacher preparation and master's degree program completed anywhere in the world.
Reach now for Teach Now. Ain't no time for defeat now. Teachers, get off your seats now. Future generations need you now.
Work with people all over the world in a collaborative, activity-based teaching environment.
To learn more, visit teach-now.edu.
Expertise that is really outside of the box.
You alluded to earlier that you got the job. Your friend had gone out there, did you say, Jean-Loup?
Yeah, so I'm not really a friend, but someone that I met in an interview in Mauritius. I didn't know him before that interview. That's how actually he was moving to Korea. Then I was applying for the job. He was living in Mauritius. So he was leaving that job to go to Korea. I applied for that job. He interviewed me. Then I got the job, but finally I didn't take it. But then that's how I met him.
Right.
So,
right,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, it worked out.
Cool. And the city again, could you say that again? It's a funny name, I guess, for a lot of us. What's the place called?
So Suwon, but the name of the school goes by Gyeonggi Suwon because it's found in the province of Gyeonggi-do. So it's Gyeonggi Suwon International School.
And in terms of a city, I mean, obviously it's not as big as Seoul, but is it a big kind of place? What's it like as a city?
Like you said, it's not as big as Seoul. I don't know the exact numbers, but it is not very far from Seoul in terms of how big it can look, it can feel in certain areas. But it's definitely not as busy as Seoul. Like where I live is a very residential area, so which is good.
Right.
Still, even if very residential, I walk 2 minutes and I get all sorts of restaurants, and I can get a premium outlet just 5 minutes walk from my house. So you have mostly everything at reach, but you still get some quiet areas, which I think is really good. I would not trade working in Seoul for working in Suwon. I think it gives a good combo of being in a big city, but having some quiet areas at the same time.
I see. So if I was now in downtown Seoul and we were going to catch a Liverpool football match together, how long would it take for you to get into the city centre of Seoul from Suwon?
So depending on the areas of Seoul, but ranging from 30 minutes to 1 hour normally.
Okay.
I mean, if I go to the other end of Seoul, it might take near to 2 hours as well, depending on the transportation mode. But for example, my son was born in Korea. He was born in Seoul, in Gangnam. I mean, good timing. It was midnight. It took me a max 25 minutes drive to get there. So, yeah, depending on the areas, it can be pretty short drive as well.
Well, if that was at midnight, I mean, Liverpool don't play till after midnight, so that would work, wouldn't it, Jean-Loup?
Definitely.
And I mean, did you say Gangnam? Is that the song Gangnam Style? Is
Gangnam
that the place?
Style, exactly.
Gangnam Style, right? There you go.
Gangnam Style, yeah.
that song really put that place on the map internationally, didn't it? So, in terms of Suwon, and you've said you'd rather be there than in the busyness of Seoul. places of interest, if someone was to arrive there, where would you say they should definitely, as a must to see in where you are?
Okay, I think the must-see would be, if I follow what guides would say as well, would be the Hwasong Fortress, which is one of those fortresses from the old Korean days, telling a bit of the history of Suwon and how it connects to Seoul as well. That's very interesting to learn about the city. But just on a funny note, I would say one thing that I always recommend for those who come visit me. I've had friends coming to visit me. I would always take them to the toilet museum. That's a hell of it. That's really, really funny. It's educational more than anything. Don't get me wrong, right? The guy who made it was a mayor, and he wanted to do that to educate people about toilets, about digestion, about everything around the toilet, right? Closet
right,
for.
yes.
It's funny the way they have sculptures and they portray things, which can be pretty raw at times. But yeah, it's funny and educational at the same time. So I take that. And funny, yeah.
A museum about toilets. I'm just thinking, in Asia, for our listeners, they're really into, especially, the Japanese. I spent time in Japan. Those maybe it's the same in Korea. I'm sure it might be, but a toilet is just not a toilet. We have tons of devices. They're like technological devices. Is that involved in the museum, like these toilets of the new age with all these sprays and noises and things like this, or is it just basic toilet systems?
Yeah, in one part of the museum, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure there's one. I don't think it gives a lot of explanation on it. But it is something big in Korea as well. I still remember my first day in my apartment, and when I looked at the toilet, I'm like, oh, what should I do from here? So many buttons and little diagrams.
Yeah.
It was all in Korean. Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, I'm being waved at to not go into toilet jokes because it's just so obvious to go into them. So we're gonna move on now. Now look, you're in Korea. You've been there nearly 6 years. What are favourite things that you like in a nutshell being in Korea, Jean-Loup?
I think the greatest thing about being in Korea, being a family guy, being a husband, being a dad, is how I think ideal it is to raise little kids. The safety is mind blowing. The way things are done to make it easy for parents to go around with kids is really impressive. I know I come from a developing country, so it is by definition already different. But still, I've traveled in Europe, and what I see here is really, really, really awesome. And that's something that makes us as a family really enjoy our Korean experience. Every time we go home, we struggle with the transition back because we are spoiled by so many things. So raising kids is really a big thing here in Korea, and we love that about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely see the benefits of that being a family man as well. I've got to say in China also the safety it's a huge aspect of where you live and work, of course. And we're both very lucky, I'm sure. So what about teaching though, in terms of, because you taught back at home, is there anything very different to being, obviously we're in an international setting, so it is a bit different straight away, but in terms of actually being specifically in Korea, in terms of the way the kids are or anything like that, any major differences you find? And one thing that comes to mind, just before you give us your answer, is, you do a design, kind of an art, creative-based subject, you teach that. There's a kind of a general attitude that, maybe Asian children, and I'm very much generalizing here, Jean-Loup, maybe they don't have as much creativity as back home, just in the way that they have to learn the language and that rote kind of learning with mathematics and things like that. Well, could you give me a sense of that, being a kind of creative design teacher in Asia?
All right, so the first difference I think is just the students, right? The students is different. Like we talked about earlier, it's mostly Korean American students, so Korean students pretty much, and they are hardworking students. Honestly, it makes the job very easy in some areas, right? Of just performance. That is one big difference. But again, I've worked in an international school home before coming to Korea, so I guess that prepared me a little bit. So I was already working with kids from different places. I taught 2 Korean girls in Mauritius before coming to Korea, so already I guess I had a preview of how they learn and how they do things. Now, in terms of that creativity aspect of Asians in general, I probably have a bias in the other way because I come from Mauritius, where we do have a strong Asian background as well. So that approach to learning, which is very rigid, I've had that being a student as well. But as a design teacher, as a designer, I like to believe that creativity potential is the same for everyone. Now, not all students would use that potential in the same way. And yes, a lot of the kids I teach here tend to go by a more, I would say, mechanical way of approaching creativity, where they would end up having good functional ideas, but they would not take any risk in trying something that may be more novel and more different in terms of creativity, in terms of bringing a different, something unexpected to the design. So yes, it can be the case, but I don't want to, I don't know if I'm being, again, coming from my bias, but I like to believe that it is more a stereotype than an actual fact. Because I keep telling my kids who tell me, oh, I'm not creative enough, I can't do that. I'm like, you're as creative as I can be, as anyone else, so do it, and you'll be able to do it. Because I keep hammering that into their heads, and I don't know that is helping, but I keep telling them, you are creative, everybody's creative, everybody has creativity, we just need to know how to use it. So now, this being said, you're right, there's that whole science and math background in the country which says, okay, we need to learn this way, we need to follow that path and that route. And they don't dare to do things differently at times. Yes, but it's not that big.
Yeah, I mean, great answer. I definitely agree with a lot of that. Moving on to because you graduated from the Teach Now program. You did a certification through there, right?
Yes, I did.
Which I mean, we've done several podcasts, as the listeners will know, with fellow teachers and people who are in the offices there in Washington DC. I've of course have gone through it as well. I mean, what was the reason for completing that program? Because you obviously had a teaching background before you came. You said as well, Jean-Loup.
Yes, so I did not do it for the teacher certificate. I did it mostly for the masters. I wanted to get a master's. And being abroad, I wanted to do something which was fully online. Most of the fully online courses from the US would require me to be a US citizen or to be on the soil. So I struggled to get into a good program until I found Teach Now. It just checked all the boxes for me. It was giving me what I needed. So that's why I went for the Teach Now program. It was for the masters first and foremost.
I mean, talking about the masters, of course, they do several masters that clip on, don't they, to the original certification program. So I think you can do the certification program in 9 months, and then you can clip on another 3 months, a research project or something like that, to get a fully accredited master's, which I think is just, it's brilliant. Of course, that's why so many people are doing it now. But what one did you actually do? Out of those several masters, Jean-Loup?
So I did the multilingual learners.
Yeah, right.
The reason for that is mainly because I'm working abroad. I'm myself an English third language, so I relate a lot to that as a teacher, as a learner. So yeah, and it did help me a lot. I learned a lot from that program for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just expand. If what was the one whammy that you learned? Because that does actually look a really interesting one, especially for us guys who are out here, of course, internationally teaching with different cultures.
The one thing I think that I would mention is there was the part in the master's program where we were learning about teaching English. So basically, most of it is me using my design lesson plans and teaching my design classes and using that for my master's program. But there was a big part of it which was about teaching actual grammar, etc., etc. And I was challenged by that because even though I totally agree to the I'd say the principle of all teachers being language teachers, even though I agree to that, I don't teach grammar in a very specific way. I don't think I'm an English language teacher predominantly. But when I had to do that, it forced me to look at some details and characteristics of core language teaching And I felt I was growing a lot from that. And I became a better language teacher as a design teacher, thanks to that program.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, that's because even in China, when they ask what do you do, and you say you're a teacher, they do obviously assume, again being generalised here, that you are an English teacher. And well, even though you might teach science or, as you say, design, in a way, it is a big part of it, isn't it? The fact that we're in these international schools with these multilingual learners. So yeah, that's quite interesting. I mean, aside from challenges with teaching the grammar side of things, Jean-Loup, what about other challenges in terms of, you know, teaching or living challenges if you come up against living in South Korea?
So I think that the biggest challenge being in South Korea, if I reflect on the last 5-ish years, would be the language. If there's one thing that I'm definitely not proud of, is that I don't speak Korean after being here for over 5 years. I know a few words. I probably know a survival mode Korean. I know how to order things. I know how to get back home. I know how to go to specific places, but I cannot have long conversations with people. If I go home and I list all the words I know in Korean, friends would be super impressed. Wow, all those words, but I cannot land them up to have a proper sentence. That is where it is a problem, and that was a big challenge. To feel socially well adjusted in the country was hard because I never really learned the language.
Yeah, and you're not the only one that, of course, will say this is a huge challenge. But Korea as a whole, South Korea as a whole, must be. I mean, it's very international, isn't it? You're just outside Seoul. Would you say lots of people on the street have a kind of an understanding of English, or is it really a challenge like it can be in a lot of places in China?
I don't know if it's an Asian thing or if it's Korean, but one thing that I've learned to appreciate about them is that the people here are super nice. But it takes a little bit of time for them to kind of accept you as part of their local community. Like with my neighborhood, for example, my first few weeks, few months, no one would respond to my English prompts when I would ask about things or for things. But then I realized that they all understand it, but they just feel that they are not good enough to respond to me and to talk to me in English because they are very conscious of how well they are speaking English. But after some time, they realize, okay, he's part of the furniture now. Even if I'm not super confident with my English, I can talk to him. And then it changes everything and it gets better. So most people would understand English pretty well and would speak. But a big percentage of those people are not confident enough to speak to foreigners right away.
Well, I think for anyone listening now to this pod who's going to be going to Korea to teach, I think that's a fantastic tip to take on board there, something to really remember when you touch the ground in Korea. Great stuff, Jean-Loup. Hey, it's magic one time. Here we go. We're gonna dance to the left-hand side. Okay, here we go then, very quick. First question, fire off and get back to me as quick as you can, Jean-Loup. Number 1, favourite game that you play in your class?
Breakout EDU.
Favourite tech tool that you use in your class?
I would share PlayPosit.
PlayPosit. Okay, there you go. PlayPosit. Check it out. Favourite sentence you like to say to your students?
Yep, I always start the year with, you have the right to be wrong.
Okay, and if I could wave that magic wand for you, what could I give you that could help your classroom or school, Jean-Loup?
I think it's space. I can always go with more space.
How many students do you have, by the way, in your class?
My smallest group this year is a group of 5. My biggest group is a group of 22.
Oh, lucky you. I'm jealous. Finally, give us your favourite teacher's tip, tool, website, resource, or person of educational inspiration.
All right, I give a little tip here, which I was taking for granted before, and I realized it's way more good, way more, I'd say, beneficial than I thought it was. It is to be more than just a teacher teaching and delivering the knowledge, but to try be someone who has experience the field you're teaching in, apart from actually just teaching it, right? For example, me being a design teacher, being a designer and a design teacher makes me, I like to believe, a better teacher, and makes it better for my kids as well. So the little tip is, we have vacation, try to go on internships. You're teaching English, for example, try to go on a journalism internship for a couple of weeks and get some tips and have some stories and anecdotes to tell your kids on the top of just content. It makes teaching a different, I'd say, a different world for the kids when we can connect with the actual world, not only from textbook or internet, but from actual experience.
Perfect. Absolutely love it. Right. Well, I'm going to love it also if you can get this game wrong, because on the 100th episode it would be nice to obviously win. So there's just a little tip for you. Let's go back to Guess the Gap. Here we go.
Oh, we chat waiting, we chat waiting, we chat waiting me. We chat waiting, come to my party.
Right, Guess the Gap. First time we do this, and hopefully you've got absolutely no idea, Jean-Loup, of what this quote is all about. I'll give it to you one more time, and then, of course, you can give me the words that you think go into the gap. Here we go. The quote is this. Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them blank is best. What do you think?
All right, I would just say teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them to learn is best.
Okay, that's absolutely wonderful. Wonderful because you didn't get it right. But I do love it. That's very nice. I do believe it works as well. But this is a quote from Bob Talbot. I'm being told here, Bob Talbot, and that wasn't what Mr. Talbot wrote. He wrote this. Here we go. Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them what counts is best.
Ooh.
There you go. It's pretty powerful. He flipped.
Play on words. Oh, wow.
Okay, I like that. Teaching kids to count is fine, listeners, but teaching them what counts is best. And I'm sure all the teachers out there would absolutely agree. Okay, before we leave, obviously we're going to put your contacts of how to get in touch with you, Jean-Loup, at the bottom of the show notes. Any future plans? What are your plans quickly in Korea? Are you going to be there for, till your kids go all the way through, or what? What's your thinking on that?
I did not plan that far yet. I'm for sure here up to 2021. That's when my contract ends, my current contract. I may renew, I don't know. But one thing that definitely is part of my future plan is to stay in the classroom. I'm doing a little bit of middle management this year with some program coordination, which I enjoy. But it reminds me that my place is the classroom. I think I belong to the classroom, and I'm not looking forward to go in administration. That is definitely part of my future plan. Stay in the classroom.
That's interesting. And again, for all those budding teachers that want to, go up to administration, it does always seem to be, I guess until you try it, you don't know, Jean-Loup, right? But there is always that sentiment that, I really miss being back with the kids and all that lovely energy they give us. Okay, wonderful stuff. It's been great having you on, fellow Liverpool fan. Here's to our 30 years of hurt being replenished by a lovely Premier League title. And keep on teaching, keep on creating, keep in touch, of course, as always. And it's been great listening to your story. This is China Jedi, people.
If you're an English-speaking teacher from anywhere in the world and you have a bachelor's degree but need an official and accredited teaching license to get a job, get a visa to teach abroad, or most importantly to learn all those things you wish you knew before you stood in front of 30-plus students, then reach now to Teach Now and secure a professional US District of Columbia license in as little as 9 months.
Online in no time, low cost, high quality. Teach Now. Get in the game. Immediately receive a $100 discount off your tuition by signing up to the Teach Now program via the link www.teach-now.edu/China Jedi.
May the smile be with you.